In the last video, we modeled this desk. I will make the Blender file and the Substance Painter file available for members on the Zero Bio Patreon if you are interested in that. Alright, so let's get to it here. Before we get to unwrapping this, I want to apply the mirror on those things. And there's a mirror on those things, so apply that. And let's see, so you got the mirror applied there, got the mirror applied there. That just has that, that just has that, and I think we're ready to go basically. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this stuff. I'm going to slash to focus on this, and I'm going to come in here, and because these are open at the end, when you unwrap something, you create a seam, and that's like a cut, and then it sort of lays out relatively flat or straight. And so because these are closed or open at the end, I should just be able to go U unwrap, and you can see what that does to those. So that's going to be okay. So I'm going to unwrap things sort of separately, and then we'll put it all together. This piece, I want to show you one thing. I'm going to press Shift H to focus on this. Actually, let's come over here and turn the cavity shader on. It's a little bit easier to see sometimes. There was at the top of this, I'm going to select that edge, there was another little piece on here. It wouldn't have caused any trouble, but I've deleted that. So anyhow, I'm going to just take this piece, and again, I can just press U, unwrap. So we're doing well. Okay, so this stuff is unwrapped. This is unwrapped. Let's come over here to this stuff. Now these things, actually, I knew there was something else. I'm going to apply the array and apply the mirror. And if I just focus on those, they're open at the back and the sides, so I should be able to just U, unwrap, and I get this nice straight stuff. Okay, that's done. This is done. Those are done. Let's do this stuff here. Okay, there's a mirror on that. There was more. Apply the mirror, take all that, so there's 4 of them, and unwrap. And again, nice and straight, hide that. Now this stuff, this piece here, if I select this and this, those I can just unwrap. And of course I'm going to have to pack all the islands later. This is not the size that I'm going to want for that. But these handles are closed in, and so what I'm going to do is press 2 for edge selection, and Shift Alt and click. I can pretty much click any one of these edges because we never, I mean, maybe the behind one is better, but you never know you know, from what angle we're going to view it. So I'm just going to mark seam on all of these, and even if the seam is ever so slightly different, it's not going to matter that much. So I'm not zooming in that much. I'm just marking seams on those, and I'm going to come over here, mark seam, trying to get sort of a back one or the top one, and one more to go. Control E, mark seam, and now if I select it all, I get all that. So maybe I can deselect those, and I'm going to go U, unwrap, and I get this. And it's not bad, but I would like to have them straight, and so I'm going to press N, and I'm going to use UV squares. It's a paid add-on. It just makes this unwrapping a lot easier. I can just click to grid by shape, and it straightens them all out, and that's basically what I wanted. So if you don't have that, they're probably okay the way they are. I'm going to hide that. The last thing is this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the top face and the bottom face, and if I go Control E, mark seam, I'll get a seam around the top. Now, depending on how you unwrap this can affect the textures. We're going to try in edge selection, Shift Alt and click there, and I'm going to do another one on this middle one, Control E, mark seam, and that'll give me this piece, and it'll give me a slightly longer piece. But the texture may wrap a little better. If I split it here and I have separate islands, the texture may come along here and then sort of break. And because I'm going to do a wood texture with wood grain, it might not work well. Let me show you something. Let me just go ahead and unwrap this. And you see what I end up getting is this piece here, and then this long piece represents all of this. And you know, it may not be ideal. But we're going to go ahead and try it anyhow. So if I bring everything back, I believe everything is unwrapped. I'm going to select everything and go in and select it all. And then because I unwrap things sort of separately, things are at at sizes that might not be reasonable. So I'm going to come up to UV in Blender, average island scale, and that should help me get a more reasonable size based on the size of the model. And then I can pack. I can use Blender, but I'm actually going to use UV Packmaster, which is another paid add-on, but you don't need to do this. You can pack in Blender, but I'm just going to use this and press pack. And to close that. And now all the islands are packed, and there's a little bit of space in between them, so that they won't overlap. However, when I go to texture this, because this is going to have a texture that has some definite directionality, I mean the wood grain, some of these may not be in the right orientation, so we're going to have to deal with rotating that, but we'll get to that when we're there. So my model should be ready to go. All right, and now what we need to do is create an FBX for this. And I think what I'll do when I'm all finished and I upload the Blender file, which will be this, I'll have it in its unwrapped form. I will also provide an FBX of this so that you can just take the FBX and go right into Substance Painter and the Substance Painter file. But you should be able to do whatever I'm doing on your own as well if you have Substance Painter and follow what I'm going to do. All right, export, FBX. Let's go over to an export folder. EasyDesk Part 2, that's good. Selected and mesh. That's all we need, export. And then save, make sure we've got it saved. All right, over here in Substance Painter now, I'm going to click File, New. I'm going to leave this as 2K and this as OpenGL for Blender, and choose Select. And this is EasyDesk Part 2. Open that, give it a minute to load. Quickly look at it, make sure no parts are invisible, which would indicate that the polys aren't facing the right way. I'm going to come up here to the display settings and scroll down and turn on anti-aliasing. That's all I'm going to do for that. It'll just look a little bit better. And in order to use the power of Substance Painter, we need to be on the texture set settings, scroll down and bake the mesh maps. Create these maps based on our model. So I'm going to click Bake Mesh Maps. Over here for the output size, I'm going to choose 2K. I'm going to uncheck ID because I don't have any ID maps, and that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and press bake. All right, we can see there's a little bit of ambient occlusion, a little bit of shadowing baked in now. We have created these maps and we'll be using those, or Substance Painter will be using those. All right, so it's time to get texturing. So I'm going to delete the default layer. We don't need that, and we're going to start from scratch. We're going to have a number of layers, 7 or 8 layers to build this up, and it may look a little weird as we start out, but once we get to the end of it, you'll see that, well, it is actually weird, but it hopefully looks kind of weird in a good way. Okay, it's not going to be just your typical desk. All right, anyways. Okay, so we're going to start by clicking the paint can here. That will add a fill layer, and that will actually go over the model, but because the model has got that default white and this is white, you're not going to see any change really. Let's go to the properties of that, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to use color. So I'm going to alt-click color. Now color is the only thing active, but I'm also going to use roughness. So I'm going to turn that on by clicking it. And the color I want to use, and this could all be changed later, we'll see, is a nice dark red color. So we'll see how well I like that. We're going to do that, and I'm going to set the roughness on 0.3. It's already there, and that's going to be our first layer. All right, so I'm going to rename this as base. Rename it as whatever you want. We're going to carry on adding fill layers. So I'm going to add another fill layer and come into the properties. And I'm not going to need metallic, and I'm not going to need normal. We'll see about the rest of these. For this color, I'm going to make almost black, but I think I'll go in the red area. Quite dark. You can't even see where that ended. So we're going to do that. It's a little tinge of red in there. For the roughness, I'm going to put this at 0.5, so sort of midway there. And we're going to have some height effects on this, and it's going to be minus 0.04. And you won't see anything yet, but we're getting ourselves set up. Come back to the main layer, and I'm going to add some stuff on here. So I'm going to add, first of all, a black mask. And now that is covered up. So just whatever I do with this mask will determine how much of this is shown. I'm going to add a fill and come into the properties of the fill. You see you've got this grayscale here. And I'm going to click this grayscale, and then I'm going to search up here, and I'm going to search for Grunge Wood Hard. And I believe that will come with your Substance Painter. I hope it does. So I'm going to click that, and it's going to start looking a little funny, just like this. Okay, some of it looks kind of cool, and some of it's all over the place. But we're going to adjust some of these parameters. So just follow me. These are the values that I found worked the way I wanted them. For the balance, 0.75. Contrast, I'm going to leave at 0. I don't think there's anything else I want to do there. However, up here, I'm going to change the scale. And normally this is locked, so if I change the tiling, here, it'll change it here and here. I want to uncouple them, so I'm going to unclick that lock there. And I'm going to put this one at 0.1. And I'm going to put this one at 10. And this can vary based on your model. Now, some of this grain may not be going in the right direction, so just don't panic yet. We're going to have to deal with that. Okay, so this layer I'm going to call, I'm just going to call it Grunge Wood Hard. Might as well. Okay. Carrying on, we're going to add another fill layer. And for the color of this one, I'm going to go for like a 3/4 red. We'll try something like that and see how it goes. And I'm going to want that color, and I'm going to have some roughness. Let's put the roughness at about 0.6 or so. And then to do our effect, we're going to add again a black mask and a fill. We'll be doing that a lot of times. I'm going to come to the properties, and in the grayscale for this one, I'm going to clear that by clicking there. And I'm going to search for directional, and it's going to be directional noise 2, and it should be this second one. Okay, directional noise 2, and I click that. And then we're going to adjust some of the parameters here. Okay, for the balance, I'm going to go for 0.45. And for the contrast, I'm going to go for 0.4. And let's see if there's some noise I want to do. I don't think so. I think I'm going to leave all that. But I'm going to come back up again to the tiling. This time I'm going to leave them coupled, and I'm going to put in 2.75. And we're just getting a little bit of another effect in there as well. Okay, and let's see. I think that's it. So this one is going to be directional noise 2. And I'm leaving these as well, so that with those names, so that if you come to the Patreon and you become a member and you grab this file, then it'll be somewhat, self-explanatory. Before I go on, I'm just going to save this quickly. Okay, I've called this EasyDesk Texture. That'll be the name for it. And we can move on. We're going to add another fill layer. All right, so add another fill layer. And in this one, we're going to have just roughness and height. So I'm going to alt click the roughness. That'll select just the roughness, and then I'm going to click the height. So we're not going to have color in this one. All right, for the roughness, I'll go for 0.6 again. And for the height, it's just a small one. It's going to be negative 0.08. And you barely notice anything at this point. But as usual, we're going to add a black mask and a fill. And I'm going to come to the grayscale and clear that. And I'm going to search for creases. Let's see, move that away. Creases soft. I believe it's the second one. Creases soft. We're going to click that. Probably barely saw anything, but I'll make some adjustments here. For the balance, I'm going to use 0.36. And for the contrast, I'm going to use 0.6. Let's see. You can just see a little bit of something going in there. Let's see. Do I need some noise? Yeah, I am going to adjust the noise. Okay, here we have frequency. I'm going to change that to 17. You see it changing a little bit, but not all that much. Sharpness 0.5, warping is 0. That's fine. But we're going to do some changes up here in the tiling. And again, I want to uncouple these, so I'm going to click there. And I'm going to make this one, let's say, 6.6 maybe. You see something there. And this one, I'm going to make 26. Let's try that. Okay, now you can see something going on. So what we're getting is a really cartoony red wood. Doesn't look that great yet, but just give it time. Now, just before we go on and start to orient this stuff, and we're not quite done with layers yet, I want to switch my HDRI from panorama to this one here. And of course, when you do bring this into Blender or whatever, the lighting will definitely make a real difference. And so it won't always look the same. I just want to come back here and possibly take this red and just look at this. Just changing that a little bit. Okay. All right, well, let's work on, the next thing let's work on is getting the orientation. Now, there's two main ways of doing this. We can adjust the rotation of the grain either in Substance Painter by doing a layer effect, or we can go back to Blender and finding which island. So for example, I want this one going up and down. I also want this one here going up and down. We could find that in Blender and rotate the UV island and pack it again, but make sure that stays in that orientation. Or we can do it simply here, and it's not as permanent, and you can run into some troubles depending on what materials you're using, but it should work. It's going to work for our example anyhow, and you should definitely know how to do it. So I'm going to create a new fill layer, and I'm going to call this just transform. Okay, it's transform. And what we want to do is come over here and have none of these active. So I'm just going to turn them all off, because this is going to be like an effects layer, and I don't really need that other stuff. All right. But I'm also going to change all of these to, from the blending mode of normal, scroll up just right underneath it to pass through, so that its effects pass through down to the other ones. So that, switching these to roughness, pass through, normal, and height, all of them are on pass through, and then switch back to just base color. That's the default. So we've done that. There's been no effects or anything. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a filter on here and come into the properties and choose the filter and scroll down to the bottom, transform, and then scroll down a bit to rotation and choose 90 degrees. I'm only changing the grain 90 degrees. Now it's actually applied to everything and it's not looking any good at all. So I'm going to come back to here and add a black mask. Now it's back to where we were, and now we can start doing the changes. So with that mask selected, come over here to polygon fill, and then we're going to select the parts that we want to change. So this is all one piece. It's a mesh, so I can choose this cube-like one. All right, mesh fill, and watch this as I click it. I need to have this layer above all the other layers. So I had it down below and it wasn't working quite the way I wanted, and now it is. All right, so we're going to carry on. I'm going to select polygon fill. This is a mesh, so I can click it. All of these are meshes, so I click that one, that one. Don't worry about the handles right now. We're going to do something different. That one and that one, because I want all those going like that. Starting to look a little better. You may not like that reddish tone. You can change that. Let's come over here. This one, we can use the mesh. This one, and all of these, I believe, are all facing the wrong way. Click that one and click that one. This one looks like it's going the wrong way. I think we're good, except for the top. The sides here do go around nicely, but the top itself. So I'm going to select this UV chunk, and because I have a seam here, it should affect only that. And then we get this. Just rotate my light around. Okay. Let's carry on, and then we'll do something about those handles. And then I'll show you something that you can consider. Maybe I do want this darker. Okay, at any rate. Okay, let's put a sort of a stylized edge on this. And by the way, the more I think about it, go back to the mask of the transform, select this. I think the underside, I missed that, in case you ever, happen to see that. Now it's going the correct direction. Okay, cool. Let's save that. I'm going to add another fill layer, and I'm going to use, I think, just color. And for the color, I'm going to use like a mid-red. Now this may or may not look good. We're just going to try it. It's pretty stark when you see it. We're going to add a black mask. We're going to add a generator this time. And go to the properties and choose the generator. We're going to choose this curvature generator. And then I'm going to adjust some values. For the balance, I'm going to go for something pretty small, 0.02. Just get a slight red around it. And for the contrast, about 0.48. And yeah, and so that gives you a little bit of red here and there, okay, on these. And then you can come up to here and you can change the opacity of that and just bring it down. You can try other colors if you want. I'm just going for that kind of stylized look. All right, cool. Well, to keep it stylized, we're going to add another cool effect. This I'm just going to call curvature. I'm going to create another fill layer, and I'm going to use color, roughness, and height. And the color is going to be very dark, almost black, but I'll do it in this sort of red area. Okay, and because these are going to be sort of holes, I want the roughness up pretty high. I'm going to go for 0.7, 0.8. And the height I'm going to put at negative 0.25. So they'll actually be rather visible. They should be. I'm going to add a black mask and I'm going to add a fill. And in the grayscale, I'm going to clear this and I'm going to search for Gaussian noise. And it should be this first one here. And you just see some splotchy stuff at first, but hang on. We're gonna modify this. Let's put the balance at 0.25 and the contrast quite high, 0.88. Okay, starting to see something going on here. And let's come into the noise parameters and set this as 64. And don't worry if they disappear. And the disorder we can put at maybe 0.75, and then you can experiment with this as much as you want. Okay, so we're getting some of these things here, but we'll make some changes up here. And we're going to put the tiling, let's just try 2. And now we have these black dots on there, that sort of very stylized kind of look that you'll often see. All right, so that's a way to do that. All right, we're getting close. The next thing I'm going to do is I think I'll do a roughness variation on this. So let's actually name this Gaussian noise and save. And I'm going to do a roughness variation. I'm going to create another fill layer, look at the properties, and choose only roughness. So Alt-click roughness, that's the only thing. I'll leave it at about 0.3, which is pretty shiny, but we won't want it that shiny all the way through. And so I'm going to add a black mask and a fill, as always. And in the grayscale of the fill, I'm going to clear this, and I think I'll look for clouds. And I might try this clouds, let's see, clouds 2. We'll see if we like that. Let's play with the balance. I might try clouds 3. Oh, my dogs are going to start barking. Here we go. And what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll turn it on and off. So there are parts that are shinier and parts that are not as shiny. So we have a roughness variation. And of course we're going to add some dirt to this, which will kind of be like ambient occlusion a little bit. We're going to add a fill and color and roughness, and I'll make the dirt pretty rough. Just drag that up. And I'm going to make this in the brownish dark color. We'll try that. We'll see, brownish red almost. Add a black mask, and we'll just use the dirt generator for this. Generator. And let's just tone it down. but leave some so that it's in the crevices, and it just makes things a little bit more visible. Okay, so far, let's save. Let's call that dirt. And really at this point, you could go back and tweak roughnesses, colors, and stuff like that. But I'm going to do the handles now, and then that's going to be it. Before I do that, however, I want to show you that, what was this, by the way? Crease soft, I think, or is it smooth? Crease is soft, okay. I could take, maybe, I don't know about the dirt, but I could take this through this, select them all, and go Control G. That'll put everything in a folder, and I could name this, like, I would start with wood, like wood desk or something, or red, whatever you want, and take that, and then as long as it's in a folder, you can then right click and choose Create Smart Material. So I'll do that, and you'll see it's formed it here. So if I was to get rid of that, let's just get rid of the dirt. This is just like we just brought it in. We're ready to go. But you have this Smart Material, and drag it over, and we're back to where we were. We'll just add this. All right, and you could try that on other furniture and see if you can get a similar theme of stuff. You know, try it on a bookcase or a chair or something. Okay, so I'll just get rid of that one and keep that one. And we've got the dirt. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something for the handles. And I will come back to my materials, and I'm going to search for steel. And use this steel, rust, and wear. That should come default, I think. And if not, you just choose a metal that you like. I'm going to drag that in between the wood and the dirt so that some dirt goes on it. And it will look like this for the moment. I'm going to add a black mask to it. And then with the polygon fill set to mesh, I'm going to select my handles. And that metal will go on just the handles. There is a problem, however. You'll see. Let's click the brush to go out of that. So that just happens to be the kind of metal that I like with this scene. You could do brass, or you could do wooden handles, or whatever. The problem is that the grain from the lower levels is bleeding through to this one. And so the way I'm going to fix this is I'm going to come back to the main layer, and I've got height enabled here. I should be okay just with height. I think my effects are mostly height related effects down here. I'm not positive, but we're going to see. So on this main layer, I'm going to click here and come to height. And I'm going to switch this from linear dodge to normal, and let's look at the handles. Yeah, all right, it's good. The height information has been disabled. And at this point, it's just time to tweak it, decide if we like this, if you want to try metal on those things. I could come to the mask, I could use polygon fill on the mesh, and I could choose this. I just don't know, not that I really want these like that. We could try it and go to the brush. I don't really want that. I want this Flintstones kind of look on there, and that's what I get. It's very red, I admit, but you know, you might want to try with brown and change the curvature color to yellow or something. Just whatever you like, but I think it's a neat stylized little thing. We make our own wood, or maybe you could use some of that in a wood and figure out other stuff. But if you're doing an old kitchen cabinets and kitchen drawers, might look kind of nice. All right, so there you go. That's the texturing of that stuff. If you want files, go on over to the Patreon, and yeah, thanks for watching.